In 1979, a French businessman named François-Henri Pinault, not the luxury goods mogul, a different man, forgotten now, submitted a formal inquiry to the Egyptian government about the possibility of purchasing the Great Pyramid of Giza. Not renting. Not licensing the naming rights. Purchasing. The Egyptian government did not respond. This is, by any reasonable measure, the correct institutional behavior. The pyramid was built around 2560 BCE. It stood for 2,000 years before the Roman Empire existed. It will stand for 2,000 more after everything you currently consider civilization has been reclassified as sediment. The pyramid does not need a buyer. The pyramid is not for sale. The pyramid does not care about any of this. But the question itself, who would own a pyramid, and what would that actually cost, is worth taking seriously, because the answer tells you something precise and disturbing about what ownership means when the asset is old enough to have outlived the concept of money several times over. Let's begin with the purchase price, which is a number that cannot exist and yet demands to be estimated. The Great Pyramid of Giza contains approximately 2.3 million limestone blocks. Each block weighs between 2.5 and 15 tons. The total mass of the structure is estimated at 5.9 million tons. If you attempted to reproduce it today using modern construction methods, with cranes, concrete formwork, and a workforce drawing OECD standard wages, the bill would run somewhere between $5 billion and $10 billion, depending on how aggressively you sourced the limestone and how generously you accounted for the logistics of moving 5.9 million tons of stone across the Giza Plateau without collapsing the substrate. This is the replacement cost. It is not the market value. It is not even close to the market value. The market value of the Great Pyramid, were such a thing calculable, is the value of the Great Pyramid as the Great Pyramid. Not as stone. Not as a construction project. As the oldest and largest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the only one still standing, a structure so precisely aligned to true north that modern GPS systems are used to explain the error rather than to measure it, the error being 0.067 degrees. A building that has outlasted every government, every religion, every language, and every economic system that has ever had an opinion about it. The replacement cost tells you what it would cost to build a very large pile of limestone. It tells you nothing about what you are actually buying. What you are buying, if you could buy it, is the oldest surviving human argument that permanence is possible. The running costs are where things become genuinely strange. Egypt receives approximately 14 million tourists per year. Roughly 2 million of those visit the Giza necropolis. Entry fees to the complex run between $15 and $60 per person depending on access tier. The Egyptian government collects an estimated $60 to $80 million annually from the site. Against this, the maintenance budget is difficult to isolate from broader Heritage Ministry allocations, but international conservation estimates place the annual cost of structural monitoring, surface treatment, visitor infrastructure, and security at approximately $10 to $20 million per year. On paper, the pyramid is cash flow positive. This is one of the most absurd sentences it is possible to write. The pyramid generates a surplus not because it is a well-run business but because it requires almost no maintenance relative to its scale. The limestone blocks have been sitting there for 4,500 years. They do not need to be repainted. The ventilation shafts do not require quarterly servicing. The structural integrity of an object built to last forever is, it turns out, excellent. The marginal cost of leaving the pyramid exactly where it is and doing nothing is approximately zero. The marginal cost of actively maintaining it is modest. The marginal cost of it continuing to be the most famous structure in human history is entirely borne by the 4,500 years of prior existence that preceded your ownership. This is the core financial proposition of the pyramid as an asset class. You are not investing in something that will grow. You are purchasing something that has already grown as much as anything has ever grown, and your role is simply to not destroy it. The liability profile is, correspondingly, enormous. Insurance for the pyramid, were an insurer willing to write the policy, would be a theoretical exercise in underwriting an object whose value is incalculable and whose risk of catastrophic loss is close to zero but whose risk of incremental degradation from tourism, air pollution, seismic activity, and groundwater fluctuation is continuous and well documented. The Cairo air pollution problem alone, the city of 21 million people that has grown up around the site since the pyramids were built to overlook an empty desert, has accelerated limestone erosion measurably in the past 50 years. You cannot sue Cairo for existing. You cannot relocate the pyramid to a less polluted jurisdiction. You own a fixed asset that cannot be moved, in a neighborhood that was not consulted when the asset was built, and the neighborhood has opinions about traffic. The staffing requirement is significant. The Giza Plateau employs approximately 2,000 people in security, guidance, and maintenance roles. These are not optional. The last time the site was inadequately secured, during the 2011 Egyptian Revolution, when police withdrew from tourist sites for several days, thieves entered the Egyptian museum nearby and removed artifacts. The pyramid itself was not breached, partly because it is very large and partly because there is nothing left inside it worth stealing in the way that thieves understand value. The gold was removed in antiquity by people who understood the asset better than any subsequent owner. You inherit the structure. The interesting contents are already gone. There is the question of the tourism externalities, which any serious ownership analysis must confront. The 2 million annual visitors to Giza are generating income for the complex and simultaneously destroying it. Foot traffic vibrates the substrate. Humidity from 2 million human exhalations per year accumulates in enclosed spaces. Hands touch the limestone despite signs prohibiting this. In 2023, 2 German tourists were detained after climbing the exterior of the pyramid and filming themselves at the summit. The punishment was deportation. The punishment for the damage done to the apex stones by an unknown number of undocumented climbers over the previous century is borne by the stones. You cannot charge tourists more to stop them coming, because the revenue model depends on their coming. You cannot close the site to preserve it, because the political economy of Egyptian tourism does not permit closing the most visited site in the country. You own a tragedy of the commons that has been operating continuously for 45 centuries. And then there is the geopolitical dimension, which makes the Formula One calendar look straightforward. The pyramid is located in a country with a complex and non-trivial political history. Egypt has been ruled, in the 4,500 years since the pyramid was completed, by the Old Kingdom pharaohs, the Hyksos, the New Kingdom pharaohs, the Libyans, the Nubians, the Assyrians, the Persians, Alexander the Great, the Ptolemies, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Arab Caliphate, the Fatimids, the Ayyubids, the Mamluks, the Ottomans, Napoleon Bonaparte briefly and unsuccessfully, the British Empire, and the contemporary Egyptian state in several of its iterations. Each of these entities had, at the time, strong opinions about ownership. None of them built the pyramid. All of them claimed it. The current Egyptian state's position, which is that the pyramid is Egyptian national heritage and is not available for private ownership regardless of price, is entirely consistent with the historical pattern and is also, from a purely strategic standpoint, the correct position. An asset that has survived 4,500 years of regime change has done so precisely because no single owner was permitted to treat it as a private asset. The honest financial analysis of owning a pyramid is this: the asset is irreplaceable, the income is modest but positive, the costs are manageable, the liability is open-ended, the insurance is unwritable, the jurisdiction is non-negotiable, and the exit opportunity does not exist. There is no buyer for a pyramid after you. The market for objects that are older than writing has, historically, been the state. You cannot flip it. You cannot develop it. You cannot take it apart and sell the components, although several people in the 19th century tried, and the evidence of their attempts is visible in the current condition of the Giza Plateau's smaller structures. The pyramid is not an investment. It is a custodianship with a price tag attached. François-Henri Pinault submitted his inquiry in 1979 and received no response. He died in 2003, largely forgotten outside his immediate family and the archivists of inexplicable 20th-century correspondence. The pyramid noted his inquiry the same way the pyramid notes everything, by remaining precisely where it is, oriented to within 0.067 degrees of true north, and outlasting the question. What the pyramid is actually offering, to anyone paying attention, is not ownership. It is perspective. You can stand next to it and feel, with unusual clarity, the exact dimensions of your own temporal significance. That experience costs $15. The pyramid provides it continuously, at scale, to everyone who shows up. It is, financially speaking, one of the better deals available.